Man has flown to outer space, yet there are still thousands of miles of uncharted depths in our oceans. It's a whole world of adventure for sci-fi writers, from Arthur C. Clarke's The Deep Range to Irwin Allen's Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. So it was a natural step for Gerry and Sylvia Anderson to take their follow-up to the hugely successful Fireball XL5 beneath the waves, following the adventures of Stingray. Stand by for action. Anything can happen in the next half hour, even Christmas. Welcome to this Christmas special. I'm Gareth Preston. When it comes to the holiday season on television, science fiction has tended to kick back and let fantasy and ghost stories take over the channels. Aside from Doctor Who, few SF dramas have really gone in for Christmas tales, but many of Gerry Anderson's Supermarionation series have featured a festive story. Tonight, for this Christmas instalment, we're going to find out how they celebrate in Marineville in the episode A Christmas to Remember. Joining me around the Christmas tree, wearing party hats and their new Troy Tempest jumpers, our regular friend of the podcast, John Isles, and making her debut, his daughter Amber. So, season's greetings.
Hello.
Hello.
I hope you're looking forward to a great Christmas.
Yeah, I hope it's a good one.
To get us into the mood, I strangely decided that what we needed to watch was some Gerry Anderson puppetry. Stingray, in particular the episode A Christmas to Remember. Stingray was first broadcast on ITV in 1964 and was AP Films' sixth puppet series, but the first to be made in colour and to be filmed at the company's new, larger studio. Amongst its innovations were interchangeable heads to convey different emotions and posable hands, whilst lead effects director Derek Meddings filmed the underwater scenes behind a Finn aquarium and used a water tank for the surface shots. Each episode took on average 17 days to film. The programme followed the adventures of Captain Troy Tempest and his crew, who served the World Aquatic Security Patrol, WASP for short, aboard the flagship submarine Stingray. Together with slow-talking, fast-thinking Lieutenant George Phones Sheridan and the enigmatic Marina, a woman from a lost race of water-breathing humans, they battled hostile underwater aliens and criminals. Directing the action from Marineville was Commander Shaw and his daughter Atlanta, also a WASP officer. A romantic triangle existed between Troy, Marina and Atlanta, underlined each episode by the love song Aquamarina, sung by Gary Miller, best remembered for the theme to Robin Hood. Stingray went on to repeat the success of Fireball XL5, both at home and internationally. It has been repeated sporadically in the following decades, compiled into 2 TV movies, The Incredible Voyage of Stingray and Invaders from the Deep, and has been released on VHS, DVD and Blu-ray. It is currently available to watch on ITVX in the UK. So before we get too much into the adventures of a little orphan around Marineville, I'm going to ask Amber first. Before you were asked to come on this podcast, how aware were you of Stingray?
Didn't know anything about it.
Oh, right. So this was completely new to you. Were you aware of any kind of Gerry Anderson puppet?
Was Thunderbirds made by...
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I do know that.
All right. That's his big pop cultural contribution to Britain, really. That was the show that came after Stingray. And how about yourself, John?
I think I would have seen Thunderbirds first on repeats around the mid-80s on Yorkshire television, and probably Stingray around the same thing. It tended to be a Sunday afternoon, would be war films and a Gerry Anderson show. So it was Thunderbirds or Stingray, Terrorhawks. That was on then as well. I remember going to my dad's mum's on a Sunday afternoon, probably once a month. That's when I remember seeing them when I was about 10 and onwards. Probably in Space 1999 got a repeat then as well, because I certainly saw it sometime. But yes, I'm very familiar with Gerry Anderson's works.
And you really ramble on.
Hey, he asked me to come on and talk, and talking is what he's getting.
That's it. Yes, I'm used to John. It's one of the reasons we have you on so often, John. Is you fill in all this useful stuff. I mean, for myself, I was always kind of aware of Stingray. I kind of sort of grew up in the 70s. It was still being repeated sporadically around the place, and I had a few Stingray and TV21 annuals. It was that period where they were still appearing in jumble sales and school fairs. And then more recently, a friend of mine, well, I say recently, a few years ago, a friend of mine lent me he had the complete Stingray on DVD and lent them gave them to me. And I watched them all, and I did enjoy them. So having said that, what did you? I'll start with Amber again. So watching this, what do you think of Stingray on the whole?
I know the puppets.
Yeah, a bit different from anime. This style. Although apparently Gerry Anderson stuff was very popular in Japan.
Well, yeah, Thunderbirds influenced all these mecha things, didn't it?
It did have an influence in these kind of world organizations that fight crime or fight evil. Although in the case of Stingray, it's got a distinctly Cold War feeling to it. It definitely reflects. There's not much in the way of kind of Star Trek making peace. Any alien race that we meet under the sea is basically evil, and Troy Tempest is a definite shoot first and ask questions later.
Yes. So did you enjoy it, Amber?
It was all right. The eyebrows annoyed me, though. Bushy eyebrows.
That is a striking thing about all the kind of early Gerry Anderson ones. They all have big eyebrows and quite sort of caricatured faces. But actually, I quite like that style. I think when they went a bit more realistic later on, from Captain Scarlet onwards, and they're more normally proportioned. But I think, to me, they kind of lost a lot of character when that happened. I actually kind of prefer the more caricatured, bushy eyebrowed, sort of boggle-eyed sort of look of those earlier puppets. How do you feel about Stingray, John, in general?
It's always been a kind of a lower tier Gerry Anderson thing for me. If I'm going in puppet shows, it's kind of like Captain Scarlet is my top one, then Thunderbirds, then Stingray, and then languishing so at the bottom, Fireball XL5, because that was also shown in these 80s repeats. Have any particular affection for Fireball, and I've never really seen Supercar. I've only ever seen one or two episodes, so I couldn't say. But I'd say Stingray is the third in my Gerry Anderson puppet triumphative. So it's enjoyable.
It is enjoyable, and I think it's watching them back. I think there is a lot of, they're very surprisingly, for what is basically a children's show, and the Stingray is always, I think, regarded as very much a children's show. Whereas Thunderbirds, I think, is seen a bit more a family show everyone watches, whereas Stingray, I think, was very much. But the fact that you've got this romantic triangle in it between Troy Tempest and Marina and Atlanta, weirdly gives it a lot more character to my mind.
And of course, it gives us the memorable song Aquamarina over the closing credits, which has always stuck with me.
In fact, looking up, I was a little bit surprised to see it was never really released. I just assumed, they released that as a single, and
right.
But a little surprised to find that I don't think they ever did, actually.
How what?
Compared, because they'd had some success with Fireball XL5.
Oh, that was a single.
So this particular episode, as I say, it's Christmas time, so we're going to be watching A Christmas to Remember.
I'd forgotten this episode, and I thought I'd seen all of Stingray.
Isn't it A Christmas to Remember, though?
I know. I didn't remember it.
It's rather nice, in which a young orphan is invited to Marineville for Christmas. Meanwhile, a mysterious submarine is brought back to base by Stingray, whose crew have vanished strangely. Turns out it's all a plot by some sinister aliens to spy on Marineville as the first step in their plan to conquer the Earth. They're rather vaguely sketched out plan, quite how it's like first Marineville, then tomorrow the world seems to be the plan, basically.
Yeah, it did seem a bit vague. What do you think, Amber? Did you work out what was going on with the empty submarine?
It was a bit confusing.
Yes, Barry, he's a classic kind of golly gee kind of American kid.
Well, these were aimed to sell to America, weren't they? So all the main characters were American, really, weren't they?
They very much they were aiming for an international, particularly the American market. They always did in Gerry Anderson shows. They always kind of skewed across the Atlantic, I would say. Going as far as Troy Tempest's face is based on James Garner, and Marina's face was based on Raquel Welch.
I always thought it was a bit of Bridget Bardot.
It could be. Now you've
was it a combination of both, I wonder?
I think you're right. They're both. Now you've said Bridget Bardot, I'm thinking, maybe that was more Bridget Bardot. I don't suppose you've heard of either of those actresses, have you, Amber?
No.
That's okay. Fame, it's a fleeting thing.
Yeah.
Well, once you did remember it, what did you think of A Christmas to Remember?
It's a slight story. I'll give it that. And I imagine it was meant to be undemanding because it was going to be on around Christmas. So it was on the 20th of December. So before I thought people won't be paying much attention. So let's just make it a slight plot. Let's bring in a kid. It was all right, but like we just said, the underwater bad guy's plan was a bit vague, and it just seems that these professionals at WASP should have been a bit more on the ball and suspected or even found this secret compartment.
How about yourself, Amber? What did you make of the episode overall?
The skating was unconvincing.
No, I'm a little surprised you said that, actually, because I really like that. I was thinking there was such a relief, because they always struggled making puppets walk in anything like a realistic way. Well, it's one of the reasons he turned to the future, because to try and avoid having people walking as much as possible. In that ice skating sequence, it's because they're just because they're skating and sliding around, it allows them to be a little bit more elegant, I thought. But you thought you thought it was unconvincing, did you, Amber?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so something that happened when we were watching this together. I said to Amber, we're about halfway through the episode, and she said, halfway? Nothing's happened.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely an episode where it's a lot of it. It's watching our heroes kind of kick back and enjoy Christmas.
Yeah.
Most of the episode. There's not. You're quite right, Amber. There's not a lot of drama in it. Having said that, I think I'm a big fan of Dennis Spooner. I think he's a really clever writer. And
he is.
To me, A Christmas Remembered does kind of nicely tie together just watching characters make Christmas dinner and go ice skating and make snowmen. And together with the more conventional Stingray, evil alien of the week, sort of like tries to kidnap somebody. They were very big on kidnapping in Stingray. Most episodes seem to have somebody being taken prisoner. What did you think, Amber, of the model work overall?
The eyebrows annoyed me.
What about the model of the submarines underwater? Did you think
the fish was a bit small?
Is that the real fish or the
metal fish?
Sorry, I talked over you at that moment.
The metal fish.
The metal fish. The terror fish.
That's the one in the opening titles.
Yeah, it was very small.
Well, actually, now we're talking about the open. I love the opening. There we are. I put my stall in. I love the opening titles. I think they're very.
They are, and I'm sure many people have said this before me. But when Commander Shaw says anything could happen in the next half hour, there's always that double meaning, isn't there? That's deliberate of how long the broadcast slot is. So it's a bit of a fourth wall breaker, isn't it?
It's very sort of meta. I quite like that, and I love the drums and the sirens. And,
did you like the theme song or the song at the end? What did you think of those?
I don't remember them.
Definitely not A Christmas to Remember.
Did not make an impact on you. Oh dear. Marineville looked rather lovely in the snow.
It did.
But the skating was unconvincing.
I quite like that bit with the snowmen. That was.
Did they throw snowballs at each other? I don't remember.
I don't think they did. Just Atlanta.
No, they don't actually throw snowballs. Poor Phones gets a door slammed in his. Well, I'm not sure. I can't remember now if it was a door or Troy Tempest's fist. One of the two things.
Yes.
In fact, something that came to me. It's not so much in this episode. Troy Tempest is not very likable. He can be a bit of a dick. I mean, and it's quite nice. I quite like in the story. I think it's quite satisfying that at the start of the episode, he's telling this tall story of him being incredibly heroic and being shot out of a torpedo tube to catch the bad guys. And then by the end of the episode, he's forced. His pride and vanity kind of force him into actually doing it.
Yes. Speaking of Christmas part, what do you think of the scenes where the women were left behind to cook Christmas dinner?
I feel like the girls should have gone with them. The girls can fight.
Yes, it is a bit. I mean, they do. I think Atlanta does make a sort of joke about.
Yes, she does.
Comment on it. Well, typical. They've gone off on a mission when there's work to be done. Generally, did any of the characters, apart from their eyebrows, did any of the characters stand out for you, Amber?
Commander Shaw had the biggest eyebrows.
What about his personality?
I think he was angry, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's kind of gruff. I quite like the humour. I mean, again, it's a children's show, but that's quite mature humour. That's where they kind of get around him, having young Barry by sort of appealing to his ego.
You're having trouble remembering the episode, aren't you? But I did like it that letter he got him to write. As you said, his hero, my real hero is Commander Shaw. That was clever.
What struck me though is that WASP, the World Aquatic Security Patrol, have got their own orphanage. I mean, what is the mortality rate like on this job?
Well, they say go on.
Do they just find them in the ocean and then just collect them?
Do I hadn't thought about that. There you are. Oh, I see. It's an orphanage for just
ocean people.
Yeah, maybe it's an orphanage for survivors of shipwrecks that the underwater bad guys sink. But also like Barry's father, who is a WASP operative killed in the line of duty. But you're right. That is a good point, Gareth. Is there a high mortality rate amongst WASP personnel?
No mention of what happened to Barry's mother in all this. So, but then Gerry Anderson Productions they are very keen on orphans. It's surprising when you look at the bios of a lot of characters in Gerry Anderson shows. Apart from sort of like the Tracy family, and even them, they've got a mother who died early. That's how so many characters in Gerry Anderson's and shows are orphans.
Yeah, you're right, because Joe 90 was adopted.
Mm-hmm.
In the Thunderbirds episode, their Christmas episode, the child, the boy in that is an orphan, I think, or is in hospital by himself, isn't he?
In some ways, that Thunderbirds episode is a bit of a revisit of this story, really. It's another little boy spending Christmas
at the base of our heroes, yeah. This Stingray one, it's the first Gerry Anderson Christmas episode, but I'd say it's also the one that stays closest to A, Christmas, and B, having at least an interesting enough plot that fits in with the series. Yeah, there's no rescuing going on in Thunderbirds, is there?
I think this is the best of Christmas episodes. Like I said, I think Dennis Spooner balances both the holiday and the mission very nicely, and it all sort of ties together quite well. And it doesn't get too sentimental. Overall, I mean, have you seen any other puppet shows, Amber?
I made my own puppet show.
Did you? What was that like? What was that about?
I did it at Christmas, and we had little animals, and I think we did the nativity scene.
Cool stuff. What sort of puppets were they?
Penguin, dolphin, and different animals.
Were they like glove puppets?
Yeah.
Whereas these were marionettes and some lovely model work.
Oh,
I watched Wallace and Gromit.
All right, and that's like stop motion animation, which Gerry Anderson did later on in his career. They did stop motion animation.
I used to watch Thunderbirds when I was little.
All right. Can you remember much about it?
My favourite character was the pink one because pink was my favourite colour.
Oh, right. So that should be Lady Penelope.
Yeah.
And Fab one.
Yeah, I loved Fabs when I was little.
Which I only found out in recent life that Fabs started off as Lady Penelope Thunderbird's merchandise, hence the name FAB, Fab. So Fab Ice Lolly was originally a Thunderbird Lady Penelope tie-in product.
I did not know that.
Wow.
You learn something new every day.
Yeah, I'll send you the link to YouTube because the original adverts are on there.
Oh, yeah, please do, because I shall be adding a few links. If you visit the website after listening to this episode, I'll be sticking on a few links to interesting articles, including some that John has provided. I enjoyed reading the rating of the 5 Anderson Christmas episodes.
I'd say it's more like 4.5, isn't it? Because Captain Scarlet wasn't a proper one, but we needed to pad the article out. Because you can't do a top 4, can you?
Amber, would you like to watch more Stingray voluntarily?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe watch a normal episode that has a proper plot rather than just the Christmassy thing. Did it make you feel Christmassy, by the way? Either of you, Amber?
A bit. Not much, though. It was just a kid going to a job.
Yeah, although he got to go in Stingray, didn't he, and press some buttons.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
That's it. But I'm glad that in a way he doesn't save the day. I think it would have that would have annoyed me. I think if he could save the day.
He's not an annoying child, is he? He's
not that annoying, actually, thankfully. Yeah, he's just terribly enthusiastic, and I think he's covering up a lot of pain, really. I think he's terrified of people leaving him. Yeah. So he presents this very pleasant, outgoing personality.
He says when he grows up he wants to be in WASP like his father. It's always baffled me slightly that obviously, Gerry Anderson shows they like their acronyms, so it's called WASP, World Aquatic Security Patrol, but their logo is an actual wasp, who isn't that well known for being water-based, is it?
Couldn't they have done fish?
I don't think I'd take them seriously if they were called fish.
So, John, what do you, as revisiting Stingray, how do you feel about it?
Like I said, it's always been for me, the lesser of the Gerry Andersons, but I still like the series, and I have fond memories of watching it growing up. And faced with watching nothing on Stingray, I will watch Stingray because I don't mean that in a bad way. It's enjoyable. It's just not as good as Captain Scarlet or Thunderbirds.
Oh.
But at least it's shorter. And I think, like you said, most of the plots are quite samey, aren't they? It's like someone from Titan or whatever, one of his terror subs abducts people or attacks somebody. It's always kind of that way, isn't it? And yeah, it's all right as a Christmas episode, but there's not much of it to remember. It's got charming bits in it, but it's nothing like I can't see myself making an appointment to watch this every year as an annual tradition. Could you, Amber? Would you want to watch this again next December? And then force your children to watch it every Christmas?
I watched it in November.
All right, okay. Well, it's the 1st of December now, so it was close enough.
Maybe.
I think it's a quality children's show. I think it's like, a lot of the Supermarionations are. There's a sense of everyone's really pushing it to make it as good a puppet series about a submarine as they can, and there's some nice bonuses. There's some nice character humour in it, I think, and there's stuff you can read into it. I mean, it tickles me in the scene where Troy and Atlanta are alone together for a moment, and Troy immediately starts coming up with reasons to go, or to change the subject. It's like
exactly. I always wondered once Marina turns up, he's got no interest in Atlanta anymore, has he?
You do. I do feel sorry for her.
So it's more like unrequited for Atlanta, isn't it? I don't think he ever chose in the end, did he? They never resolved it.
No, it's never resolved in the series. Again, that's probably looking into fan fiction. There's probably someone's done it. Someone's written The Wedding of Troy Tempest.
Yes. And who would you prefer him to be with?
Yeah, Amber. Who would you choose out of Marina and Atlanta?
Who's Atlanta?
She's the Commander Shaw's daughter. The other female character.
Was she blonde?
No, she had dark hair.
She's more a redhead, I think.
Yes.
I think I like Marina more because she's like a mermaid.
There you go. Once Christmas is over, we're looking into the new year. And what sort of plans? I didn't say it so, but of course, John is one of the hosts of I Don't Do Sci-Fi, along with Rebecca and Danny Ray. And what sort of plans have you got for the new year?
Funnily enough, Gareth, we also have a Christmas special episode coming out.
Has it got me in it?
No,
then it's not special.
There's somebody called we have somebody called Gareth Preston as our special guest.
Oh, I've heard he's good.
Yeah, he's all right. There wasn't anyone else available. We've we sat Danny down and we watched Canine and Company, the first Doctor Who spin-off on television. So the four of us sat down and hopefully the entertaining bits will be edited into a montage for our listeners. And we're also doing a video edition of it, so you'll be able to see clips of Canine as we talk over them. So that'll be out on the 23rd of December. I don't know if that will be before or after you hear this podcast from Very British Futures, but it will be around forever. Gareth will share the links, I'm sure.
Thank you very much to John and Amber for taking some time out to watch Stingray and talk about it.
Bye!
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful Christmas and look forward to talking to you in the new year. Merry Christmas! Very British Futures was hosted and produced by Gareth Preston with special guests John and Amber Isles. Music by Chattery Art. Check out his music at chatteryart.bandcamp.com. You can find out more about this episode and Stingray by visiting our website at westlakefilms.uk, Very British Futures. Follow us on Twitter at FuturesVery. If If you can take the time to rate and comment on the show, it would be marvellous. Thank you for listening. Look forward to talking to you soon.